Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Mary Wanjiku, Corporate Wellness Specialist and Wellness Manager at Minet Kenya. We are thrilled to have you join us. Last week was International Men's Health Week, and on Sunday, we were able to, celebrate Father's Day. So we want to dig deep into the topic, and as we do so, we welcome you to join the conversation by tweeting through the Minet Kenya tab, as well as contributing to this conversation using the hashtag Men's Health, Minet Wellness, Minet Spaces. Before we dive into this topic, let's remind ourselves why it's crucial to talk about men's health matters. I'm going to highlight some key facts. Number one, men are 4 times more likely to die from heart diseases as compared to women. Secondly, alcohol kills 6 times more men than women. Men make up 56% of the workforce, yet account for 94% of all workforce fatalities. 3 in 4 suicides has a man as the victim. In fact, on the matter of suicides, more women attempt suicide, but more men actualize the suicide. 3 in 4 road fatalities are male-related. 1 in 3 men has a risk of developing cancer compared to women at 1 in 4. Men have an increased risk of dying from diabetes. 70% of developmental and learning disabilities affect boys. Men make half as many physician visits for preventative services as compared to women. Men's health not only affects individuals, but also families, relationships, and communities. We all have a role to play to create a positive impact on men's well-being and, by extension, the society at large. Today, together, we will explore a range of topics, including physical health, mental resilience, sexual wellness, preventative care, and healthy lifestyle. We'll debunk myths, address common concerns, and provide you with practical tips for leading a healthier and happier life. We have a very special guest today who will be unpacking this for us. It is my great joy, honor, and privilege to introduce to you our guest speaker for this evening, none other than Dr. Frederick Wangai. Dr. Wangai is a consultant physician with a leaning towards infectious diseases, cardiovascular wellness, occupational health, and lifestyle medicine. He is a designated health practitioner, also known as an occupational health doctor, licensed by the Ministry of Labor to provide occupational health services to corporates and institutions. He is also a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, teaching medical students. He is passionate about sharing knowledge in interactive forums such as this to promote preventive health and wellness. He's equally passionate about matters mental health, and as part of his holistic biopsychosocial approach towards supporting individuals and corporate institutions towards pursuit of optimum well-being. We want to have an inclusive and open environment. So we want to encourage all of you to please ask your questions and share your thoughts using the hashtag Men's Health, Minet Wellness, or Minet Spaces. I am very confident we'll have an enlightening and empowering conversation today. Remember, it is indeed an interactive space, so don't hesitate to jump in with your questions or personal experiences. Let's be respectful of one another's opinions and experiences. Without further much ado, let's kick off our discussion on men's health matters. And to begin with, Dr. I want to welcome you to the session. And perhaps you can shed some light, even as you greet our listeners today. Why is mental health important? Why is it such an important topic for us to discuss today? What are these specific and unique health concerns that men encounter throughout different stages of their lives? And how can these challenges impact their overall well-being? Over to you, Dr.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary, for that introduction. I almost thought it was someone else that you were introducing. Almost couldn't recognize. Thank you for that kind introduction. Well, today we are very, very excited to have the very first ever Minet Kenya Twitter space, which is something that is, I must admit, is also new to me. So it's quite an exciting opportunity that we have here, and we hope to do many more in future. Now, let me just take you along a journey with me. I remember it as if it were yesterday. It was the year 2018. Sometime 2018 around November. And I found myself seated in a counseling psychologist or psychotherapist office. Now, her office is right near Junction, for those who know the Junction Mall along Gong Road. And I found myself seated there. And I couldn't imagine that the day would ever reach where me, a consultant physician, a doctor, having practiced for over a decade now, would actually reach the point where, as a man, hitting rock bottom, having nowhere else to turn to, reaching a point where I could not even prescribe medication for myself because I was stuck. What do you do when you go out preaching and talking and and just helping so many other people with their own health problems, but you can't even help yourself? They say, mganga hajigangi or kinyozi hajinyoi. And the therapist looked at me and said, you know what, Daktari, you have depression. You have clinical depression. And not only do you not have clinical depression, you also have what we call an anxiety disorder. So I looked at myself. Okay, depression, maybe I could agree with that. I remember at that point in time, I'd lost some weight. I would oversleep. I would not find any. I'd find it very hard to get out of bed in the morning to go to work. But I didn't think it was really that serious, but she actually said, no, you have clinical depression. But clinical depression is actually your secondary diagnosis. It's not the main thing that you have. The main thing that that is actually stressing you out is what you have is an anxiety disorder. I said, anxiety disorder. That's interesting. Of course, theoretically, we learn about it in medical school, right from first, second year, and more intensely in the later clinical years. You know what anxiety is all about. Basically, anxiety is where your body manifests physical symptoms such as heart beating very fast, or sweating, or chest pain, or any kind of some even people even get diarrhea or tummy aches, or just a physical symptom that has the underlying roots in the mind. The mind is very powerful. So the mind is unsettled. The chemicals in the brain are out of balance. It manifests in a physical symptom. And this is what we call anxiety. And anxiety usually has triggers, things that just tip you off the edge. So she said that, yes, actually, Doctor, you have an anxiety disorder. And on top of that, I'm like, what do you mean on top of that? Is there something else? I'm like, this can't get any worse. It says, on top of that, you have a personality disorder. You have what we call a dependent personality disorder. Now, that one I had never heard of before. And so quickly went on Google, what does this dependent personality disorder entail? And, of course, Dr. Google will always tell you number one, either you have cancer, number two, you're dying, or you have a mental health problem. That's Dr. Google always give you the worst of all diagnosis. Really, dependent personality disorder, fearing, rejection, being overly sensitive to criticism, fearing abandonment, over reliance on friends or family members for decision making, and being easily hurt by disapproval. Those are some of the things that were under. Actually, by the way, I do have this. And she was spot on. And that is how my journey with mental health began. Now, 3 years down the line, I am definitely much better. And I consider myself a strong advocate for mental health, more so amongst the men. Why? Because, culturally, or what society says about men. Men were supposed to be big, we're supposed to be strong, we're supposed to be like Rambo. Over the weekend, I was watching a series by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I remember, right at his age, and he's well above 60, he's still making movies that portray the epitome of masculinity, this raw, rough, rugged kind of male who's macho, who's an alpha, who's killing it at work, who, not killing with guns, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's hitting his targets, he's unemotional, he cannot cry, he gets home and everything stops because, he is the one who, ni msema yote, this is the man. But we don't realize that this quote unquote alpha man, or this epitome of masculinity, can also fall sick. This masculinity, because of all this pressure, can actually break down. And there's so many men, you just mentioned it. Most men who attempt to commit suicide actually succeed as compared to women. Many, I remember even about almost 7 years ago, one of my friends in church, a young guy in his 20s, very successful graduated from university, very successful. He's a rugby player, one of the big rugby teams locally. One day, we just got a call that he had hung himself and he had died. He was successful in it. So a lot of men, and this is something that we really need Mary to talk about and bring to the forefront. A lot of men are suffering from mental health, be it depression, be it anxiety, be it stress disorder. And this ties in with substance abuse. Right now, this morning, I saw another man under my care in one of the big major hospitals in Nairobi. He's 68 years old, but he's depressed. And his daughters, you can imagine his adult daughters who are in their 40s, came to me and said, Doc, please help us. We need our father to get into rehab because he's depressed. He's been drinking a lot of alcohol. And right now he's suffering from prostate issues and kidney failure, all interconnected and tied in with mental health. So mental health, I do agree with you, Mary.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. for that question. In fact, what I can say, we do have what we call an employee assistance program, where we are able to offer psychosocial support to all our members, including men. What we've also done to try and encourage, men to speak out more, seek help more. We do have a men's club that we call Minet Men's Circle, and our men can join, where we have candid conversations on various topics, on mental health and other issues affecting them, to help men kind of speak up. And I like that you talked about the increased cases of depression and anxiety. And I saw some statistics that depression and anxiety is actually causing the global economy about $1 trillion. And to be honest, in the current times that we are living in, that are volatile, very uncertain, and there are a lot of financial difficulties, Daktari, perhaps you can tell us, how can men effectively manage stress and the various demands in their life? And what impact does that stress have on their overall health?
That's a very good question. And we do know that stress as a state, so between, I mean, depending on whether it is stress from work, stress at home, with your family, with your girlfriend, with your wife, or with your children, stress in whatever form does something to the brain. And what happens is when the body perceives or undergoes a state of stress, you end up producing hormones and chemicals such as adrenaline, such as cortisol, such as we call it a stress hormone pathway or cascade. And over time, it's like being placed in a hot tub of water that is boiling. Eventually, you burn your skin. So initially, you think, this is a nice warm bathtub, and I'm enjoying soaking in and enjoying just the feeling of, the serenity. But the water does not cool down. It continues boiling and boiling. And that's what happens when we produce these stress hormones. And then fortunately, when these stress hormones are produced over a long period of time, it causes a lot of wear and tear, no matter where in the body, in different systems. So, for example, I'll give you an example. We do know that stress hormones cause bone disease. Stress hormones cause nerve damage. Stress hormones over a long period of time cause a lot of cardiovascular diseases, diseases to do with the heart and the blood vessels, such as heart attack, or what we call myocardial infarction. What we things such as stroke, where someone becomes paralyzed. We do know that these hormones also cause endocrine problems and have a significant contribution to endocrine issues, such as diabetes and hypertension, and getting that all over out of control. We do know that even this stress, and the mental health issues that we're talking about have a big role to play in sexual health. So majority of people who have what we call erectile dysfunction, where men cannot rise to the occasion, as we put it, a lot of it is actually due to psychological stress and things in the background in terms of mental health. So it is really important that we address and have conversations around mental health and stress not only because of the effect on the mind, but also because of the effect on the body, and it leading to diseases and chronic diseases that have an implication on the long term in terms of your quality of health and in terms of your well-being and your wellness.
Thank you, Daktari. And maybe talking about that, how to handle the stress, looking at the effects. Many times when men are stressed, they tend to indulge in alcohol, sometimes indulge in gambling or betting, indulged in smoking. What are some of the healthy coping mechanisms that men can adopt to deal with the stress that they face?
Okay, that's sorry. I think I lost you there for a while. A bit
Oh,
there.
sorry. Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I was saying, looking at the various effects that you have mentioned, that relationship between mental health and physical health. When stress comes, people or men tend to cope in certain ways that may not be healthy, like smoking, taking alcohol. And the question is, what are your recommendations of some of the healthy ways to cope with stress that men can adopt?
Okay, that's a great question. Now, I will answer that question by giving you an acronym. Now, being a being a teacher, I'm always looking for ways and means to effectively pass on my message and help my students remember. So, one of the things that we tell our patients, and this cuts across not just for stress, mental health, but also for chronic diseases and lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, even cancer, I'd like you to remember the acronym SWIM. 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 And this is really good because really at the end of the day, we do not want to sink and drown with all the different threats and issues and problems that attack our health. We want to stay afloat and we want to thrive instead of just surviving. So thrive, don't survive. We need to swim. And S stands for sleep. Sleep. So sleep has a lot of benefits, and we say that when you sleep, we look at 6 to 8 hours of sleep, majority of which should be before midnight, because we know that 1 hour of sleep before midnight is equivalent to, in terms of the rejuvenating power and refreshment, is equivalent to 2 hours of sleep after midnight. So the thing is, sleep early, wake up early. If I sleep, for example, from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., that is roughly 6 hours. That is equivalent to me sleeping from, you said, remember, in a ratio of 1 to 2. So that's the equivalent of me sleeping from 1 a.m. to 1 p.m. the following day. So sleep early, your brain is able to refresh much better, rejuvenate much better, and you'll wake up feeling, like you can tackle Mount Everest. As opposed to sometimes, have you ever tried, Mary, sleeping, when you sleep late, maybe at 1 a.m., you're trying to crunch your targets for Minet, blah, blah, blah. And then you wake up at like 7, 8 a.m., and you still wake up and you feel tired. And yet you've slept a whole 6, 7 hours.
Yeah.
That's a message we need to pass, that sleep is really important in terms of boosting your immunity. It is important in terms of regulating your moods. It's in terms of repairing your body tissues and your body cells, important in balancing your hormones as well. Even improving your sexual health. We know sleep has benefit. A lot of studies have been done in terms of sleep and associations with high blood pressure if you don't sleep well, heart disease, stroke, obesity, a lot of benefits, all around. So sleep, that's S, 6 to 8 hours, best before midnight. Now, we know that also when you sleep during the day, maybe for like half an hour or take a nap 1 hour, some studies came out actually in May 2023 showed that those who napped for more than half an hour during the day, they had a 90% increased risk of abnormal heart rhythms. So their heart started beating abnormally. We call that atrial fibrillation. So again, just to not overstate, sleep at night. Day, do your work. W stands for water. So drinking about, and we said usually keeping yourself hydrated, 6 to 8 glasses in a day has multiple effects in terms of your mental health, in terms of your digestion, your digestive health, in terms of your blood and your cardiovascular system, in terms of your immunity, in terms of even some studies have shown that drinking water in children helps in memory, helps in learning, helps in retention at school. Of course, it has cardiovascular benefits, physical performance. So W, water. And with water comes alcohol, which again is another big elephant in the room. I told you this morning about a patient I saw this morning who is almost approaching 70, and his daughters were begging me to take him to a rehab because they're just fed up. They say our dad just drinks, and he's basically like a vegetable at home. But I also remember, coming to think about it, earlier on this week, I also got a call from the mother of one of my patients. Now, it's very interesting when you get a call from a mother, things are thick. And this mother is a mother of a 30-year-old. So when a mother of a 30-year-old calls you about her son, you really wonder, hey, this must be really serious. And yes, this son who is 30 years old, currently, I remember when I admitted him in hospital, he came to hospital with heart failure. Now, heart failure is when your heart is not pumping well enough, strong enough to be able to supply your body cells with all the nutrients and oxygens it needs. So usually for our heart, when we look at percentages, how our measure of how our heart is beating, the normal heart beats or gives you a percentage of above 50 to 55%. So that's what we call a normal heart function. But can you imagine, for this 30-year-old, his heart was giving us a fraction or a percentage of about 15%. 15% was how, a measure of how well his heart was pumping. And that's really devastating. I mean, this is what we see in people who are, in their 60s, 70s, who have diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, heart attack, who have had clots in their systems. So he had a heart of an 80-year-old. Imagine pumping around 15%. And what was the underlying cause? Maybe take a wild guess, Mary.
I had no idea.
Can you imagine? He had what we call alcoholic dilated cardiomyopathy. Alcohol had destroyed his heart to that point. And you can imagine now this guy comes up, he's swollen all over, his legs are swollen, he's unable to breathe, he's unable to walk up the stairs. Even walking short distances, like from here to the door, was a struggle. And all this was just because of alcohol. So when you see our vice president going around trying to talk and make a lot of noise about alcohol, there is a reason. And this is actually affecting not just the older generation, but the younger ones as well. So really at the end of the day, we know that alcohol, as part of under W of water, has lots of effects, not only for mental health, but for cardiovascular health, for cancers as well. We know drinking alcohol increases your risk for cancer or alcohol-related cancers by up to even 51%. Alcohol, booze, that is a big thing that we need to talk about. So don't play with that. That is W for water. I stands for ingestion. So what do we need to ingest? What do we need to eat in our diets that can help us in terms of mental, physical, emotional, all types of health problems? Eating a lot of fruits, eating a lot of vegetables. We know that has a lot of benefit. We know that over 14 types of cancer have been directly correlated to diet. So diet which is high in fat, diet which is low in fruits and vegetables. And very interestingly enough, we now have lots of new studies that came up within the last 2 to 3 years that talk about meat, particularly red meat and cancer, red meat and hypertension, red meat and diabetes as well. So we know colon cancer, breast cancer, heart disease, diabetes has actually been associated directly to your ingestion of meat. So think about plant-based foods. Think about for men. So lycopene for men. Lycopene for men is something very, very important. Sorry, can you hear me? I think I dropped at some point.
Yeah, we've heard you. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so lycopene is a chemical that is actually found in red fruits and vegetables. So strawberries, tomatoes, grapes, and lycopene has actually been associated with a reduction in prostate cancer. So it actually prevents prostate cancer. And lastly, when we talk about S, so we said S is sleep. What was W, Mary?
Water.
Very good. And then I?
Ingestion. And maybe before you go to the next,
Yes.
the M,
Yes.
I wanted to ask, I think us as women, especially the married women, we are the ones who make the food choices for the men. And I pondered and wondered, if they're having issues with what we eat, we significantly contribute in terms of what we prepare,
Yes.
in terms of the portions that we serve. So what can women do to promote proper nutrition for the men so that they are not affected by these very many diseases that you're talking about?
Okay. Let me give you an example of Eliud. And I'm sure we all know Eliud Kipchoge, the world's fastest marathoner. So we
Yeah.
actually had an opportunity to interact with Eliud Kipchoge a few, not too while ago. And we were there and, my family as well. And we asked him, Eliud, what is a champion's diet? What do you eat? Can you imagine what he told us? I mean, for example, Eliud, probably does about 220 kilometers weekly that he clocks. And all those long distances he does, he actually told us his secret is diet. And what does his wife cook for him? His diet is actually very incredibly simple. He likes eating a lot of beans. He does a lot of fruits and veggies. He says, interestingly, he treats himself to a little bit of sugar. So he does about 3 teaspoons of sugar in his tea in the morning. But that's just when he's treating himself. He says he does a lot of bananas and also eggs. On the days when he's racing, he does cereals and milk, sometimes even just oats. But for lunch and dinner, he usually does a lot of probably ugali, some managu. Very rarely, he says, very rarely does he have lean beef. We also asked him, does he like chapati? He says, yes, he does. He likes chapati. But at the end of the day, and again, he does double very well. He says he does 3 liters of water in a day. So has he talked about chicken? Has he talked about pork? Has he talked about pizza and, chips? Nope, not at all. So for us, and I'm sure Mary and many other wives listening here, for us who may want to know what to cook for our husbands, or maybe Mary, you want to cook for your boyfriend, on a light note, really, if you want them to be a champion, you need to focus more on the plant-based diet, on the fruits, on the nuts, and less on the fatty foods, less on the hardcore, what we call the red meats and the porks and a lot of the things that really at the end of the day will only increase your risk for chronic diseases and cancers. I hope that gives you a practical example of what such a diet would look like.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I think now we can go on to the next acronym.
Okay, so we said S for
Next letter.
yes, so we said sleep, we talked about water and alcohol, we talked about ingestion, and lastly, we talked about motion. M for motion, M for motion. And really, at the end of the day, when we talk about motion, it's basically exercise. Now, right now, there's a message that's going all around in terms of in the medical world that's saying sitting is the new smoking. So if you sit for 6 hours in a day, that is just as bad as smoking 1 packet of a cigarette, nicotine cigarette in a day. Sitting for 6 hours in a day. So really, that is the new smoking. So, Mary, how many hours did you sit today at your desk?
Sorry, how many?
Hours did you sit today at your desk
Wow,
in the office?
quite a number, like 8, like eight,
Like
8 plus.
8 plus years. So
Yeah.
clearly, you have smoked probably 1.25 packets of cigarettes. Really, really, that's the message we need to pass. We need to increase activity. We need to increase our activity. And how do we do this? Very simple ways to do it. For those of us who have desk jobs where we sit, the whole day, all we tell our clients and what we tell our patients is make sure every hour stand for a minimum of 2 minutes, just 2 minutes each hour. Make sure you stand. and stand, you can stretch, you can even continue working on your desktop. Just make sure you stand. That will do a lot of work. Another thing I tell my patients is when you think about physical activity and exercise, fit, and we say fit, FITT, that's another acronym that I like using, FITT. Exercise, let me say a minimum of 3 times a week, maximum of 5. So 3 to 5 times a week. I in FIT stands for intensity, and we say intensity, we need you to make sure you exercise to the point where you pant and sweat. So I can walk from here all the way to Naivasha for, Safari Rally, and I'm walking. If I'm walking pole pole, and I'm not sweating, I'm not panting, I'm not feeling my heart beating, then that exercise is useless. You need to have intensity. Then T is time. In FIT, FIT is intensity for time. T, we said that for you to have exercise, you need to have at least 30 minutes in a day. At least 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, you can spread it out. So you can say, I can do 10 minutes in the morning. At lunchtime, I'll take 10 minutes to walk up and down the net building stairs. So, because I know there's stairs there. I can walk all the way to 5th floor and come all the way down to ground floor. That's 10 minutes. In the evening, when I get home, I do 10 minutes. That's equivalent to you doing a full 30-minute workout. So we encourage people, just spread it out during your day. And the last T stands for type. In FIT, FITT, frequency, intensity, time, and the last T is type. 7 main types of exercises that we recommend. 1, jogging. 2, if you're walking, it's a brisk walk. You can swim. 4, for ladies, you can say you can skip a rope. You can do aerobics, number 5. Number 6 is you can do what we call cardio in the gym. And lastly, cycling. So 7 main types of exercises, as long as you're doing 30 minutes, as long as you're panting and sweating 3 to 5 times a week, and this exercise regime will do a lot for you. What are some of the benefits of this exercise? There's another study that was done in February 2023 that actually showed that those who engaged in exercise were 1.5 times more likely to see or have cures for depression, for anxiety, for stress. Pregnant women as well got a lot of mental health benefits from exercise. You know that if you walk, you lower and do this exercise regime, you lower your risk for heart disease, for stroke, or even heart failure by up to 14%. So the more steps you take, and we say just walking 500 steps, that is about 400 meters, 500 steps a day lowers your risk of heart disease by 14%. You're able to lose weight, gain good muscle mass. Regular exercise also improves sleep. So at least 25 minutes a day improves sleep a lot. We know that exercise also has been associated with a lower risk in cancer, diabetes. Oh, in fact, even now that talk about diabetes and hypertension, a lot of my patients actually who are in what I call in my diabetes and hypertension reversal program. Now, these are patients who come in, they're on insulin, the patients who are on many tablets for diabetes and hypertension. We put them on a good swim strategy, SWIM, which we have mentioned again. And can you imagine that we're actually able to get people off their insulin? We're able to get people off their drugs for diabetes. The other day, I reduced someone's medication for high blood pressure, and we can actually get what we call reversal and remission just by doing a good exercise regime, because exercise reduces blood pressure, reduces your blood sugar. Combine that with a good swim strategy, and you have multiple benefits. Can you imagine someone who's used to taking insulin every day, injecting themselves, used to taking 5-6 tablets every single day, being reduced to just 1 or 2 tablets? You can imagine how happy you would be in that kind of a scenario. So yes, that is how I would answer your question, Mary. I'm sorry I've I said a lot, but
Yeah.
that sums it up, really.
Yeah, very, very, very insightful, Daktari. Because the tips you've given not only address mental health, but they've also touched on the physical health and the need for the gentleman, and I think all of us in general to be very intentional about what we eat, how we sleep, the water that we take, and even exercise. I know we are in a very fast-paced environment. You know, our schedules are packed, but we have to create time and incorporate the physical activity in our day to day. Like the way Dr. was saying, you can have a stand-up meeting or you can take the stairs. You know, we incorporate it to achieve the 30 minutes that you've talked about. Maybe to take us to the specific issues affecting men, like prostate health, which is a significant concern. Perhaps you can shed some light, you know, on some preventative strategies and you know how it can be detected early. I know it's an area of concern. And I know there are also some myths around it that you know that you need to sleep with many women, you need to ejaculate many times, you know, to prevent yourself from getting prostate cancer. Is that so?
Okay, that's a very good question. I like using stories. I'll give you just an example. Just last week, actually, I had a man who's about 83 years old, and he came to us with difficulty in breathing, and he also had a clot in his leg. So, of course, for us who are in the medical field, the first thing that you think about is, does he have a clot in his lungs? So we checked, and he was in ICU, and actually he had a huge, very huge clot in his lungs. And this clot was actually right in the center. So it was blocking both the right lung and also the left lung as well. So we did some emergency procedures for him, and we were able to try and dissolve the clot. But at the end of the day, I had to ask myself, what is causing this clot? I decided to check for cancer. And believe it or not, can you imagine this patient, Mary, had cancer? Can you imagine which cancer he had? Take a wild
Prostate?
guess. He
Prostate?
had prostate cancer. And he had prostate cancer stage 1, very early prostate cancer, that he did not even give him any symptoms. So I was very excited because I dashed and I called the son and I talked to him, the son, and also the patient themselves. And I had to tell him, we found the cause of your blood clot. We know that blood clots, one of the causes is cancer. And we found your cancer, and I'm so excited because we found it very early. And when we find it early, any cancer in the body, you have up to almost 100% chances of curing as long as you found it early. Now, you've asked me about what causes prostate cancer and how can we really prevent it. I tell men, the best thing you can do to prevent prostate cancer is to go for your annual checkup. That is the best thing that you can do for yourself. I know we are scared we're scared of, getting fingers being stuck up our backsides as the checkup, traditionally for prostate cancer. But we have other new methods these days, and even a small blood test, what we call a PSA test. And we say that prostate cancer, at the end of the day, you can catch it early as long as you're above 50. We start usually, sometimes even above 45. We recommend once a year testing for prostate cancer. If you're able to do that, then you will go a long way in actually preventing prostate disease. Other things that you can do is, and now Mary and all the other ladies in this forum, I know you will not understand. Let me speak, just a minute to our gentlemen here. Do you remember when we were young? when you're about what maybe 5 6 years, and you're playing around with with your friends in the estate, and you're running up and down, and then you feel, okay, it's time to take a leak. So you look for a nice bush somewhere, and you're passing urine in the corridor somewhere, and you're really really trying to play with your urine. So I know, Mary, you will not understand this. The other lady in this room, none of you will understand it, but men, I know men understand what we're saying. And you're trying to make a nice jet, a nice jet stream with the urine that goes, and you see who can shoot the farthest, or who can even aim for, that rock over there in the distance. Maybe you will not understand, but this is something that we do. But you realize that that stream becomes weaker and weaker with time. So again, as you age 45, 50 and above, you notice just at home that you're not able to, urinate with such a strong jet anymore. Or sometimes you feel that there's still a little bit of urine left in your bladder. You try and remove everything, but it's not emptying. Or when you try, you have to strain, and you just get, toing, 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 the small drops of urine. So when you realize, number two, that's on my second message, when you realize that your changes in your urine habits, that is something else, that the sign that you need to get checked. You need to get checked for prostate cancer, in addition to your once in a year, your yearly checkup. So other things that really one can think about, of course, apart from age, of course, race. So we know more Black people tend to get prostate cancer than Caucasians. If you have someone in your family, for example, this patient of mine, he says many of the uncles, many of the other men in his family also had prostate cancer. If you have someone in your family who also has breast cancer or ovarian cancer, that puts you at a higher risk for getting prostate cancer as well. We know that also eating habits and weight, obesity in itself is associated with prostate cancer. So, of course, having a good, healthy diet, exercise, basically your swim, will help you prevent prostate cancer. So having a change in diet high in food and in fruits, vegetables, legumes. I've mentioned lycopene earlier on, reduction in animal fat as well, and then high cholesterol foods have preventative measures that can help us watch out and really escape and evade prostate cancer. We know that prostate cancer is actually the number 2 killer cancers amongst men in Kenya. Those are the current statistics we have. Prostate cancer is the number 2 killer. Number 1 is cancer of the esophagus, or the food pipe. So this is something really that we need to. I see it every time. Probably get 1 or 2 every month. People with prostate cancer coming to seek help and treatment, and these are things that we can avoid. The prostate cancer, we know that once it develops and it spreads mostly to the bone, to the spine, and can even make you paralyzed. And this is something that is so easy to treat. This is something that is so easy to prevent. But unfortunately, you remember, as men, we don't like the meeting when we have problems. We want to suffer in silence. We want to push until we can't do anything anymore. And then that's when we go to hospital. Encouraging us is important. Encouraging us to be faithful with our annuals is the most important step in terms of prevention.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for that insight on prostate health. And as we are coming to the close of our session, I want to encourage all of us to post any questions you may have. Also, feel free to raise your hand and we'll be able to unmute your mic. And you can also share your experiences, your thoughts around the topic. And as you prepare to do that, Daktari, to our final questions, are there any emerging trends or advancements in men's health that individuals should be aware of? I think I had mentioned to you I had heard of a penile implant, noting that, like erectile dysfunction is a common problem. And we had one of the hospitals in our panel tell us that, they have actually moved to that stage where you can have a penile implant done. So I don't know if you can talk about that and any other new thing that is happening around men's health.
Okay, that's a good one. Now that you mentioned penile implants, yes, penile implants are there. In fact, I had a conversation the other day with one of the students who was doing surgery, men's health surgery in Kenyatta. We call that urology. And he says, yes, yes, yes. He's very excited because he wants to graduate so that he immediately he graduates, he will be doing a lot of penile implants because that is the in thing right now. So really, if you look at penile implants, what is a penile implant? How can one get it? Is it important? Is it for everyone? Really, penile implants are what we call structural or physical devices that are one of the treatments for erectile dysfunction or for ED. We know that penile implants require surgery. Not everyone should do it or ought to do it. It's when we've tried everything else and nothing else is working, then you can consider penile implants, but they're not for everyone. If you have diabetes or heart disease or any other chronic diseases, then penile implants are not for you. If you get infections frequently, not for you. Why? Because we know that there are risks to having penile implants. You can get infections. You can have malfunctions. So the penile implant, the device, the machine can actually break down and it's broken down inside you. That can cause a lot of problems with the skin, with erosions inside. So penile implants are not for everyone. But for those who desire penile implants, how do they work? We know there are two types of penile implants. There's one penile implant that is called the inflatable implant. So basically we insert a tube, right into, the shaft. And that tube is connected to a little sac or a little balloon of water. And that balloon of water, we hide it inside your abdomen. And so that balloon of water is connected to the implant or to the shaft. And there's also a connection to a pump and a valve, a release valve. And this valve, we place it inside inside the scrotum. So when you're ready to, stand up to the occasion and give a standing ovation, you pump the scrotum and, and that valve in the scrotum now takes that balloon of water and uses that water to inflate the device that is in the shaft. So you can easily turn it on, turn it off. You pump, 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 inflate it, and when you're ready to release, you release the valve and all the water goes back into the balloon that is inside your shaft. The other type is what we call the rod or the rigid or the semi-rigid rod. It's a bit better than inflatable in terms of malfunction. So it doesn't malfunction as easily as the inflatable one. But at the end of the day, the con of that is that the rod is always hard. It's always rigid. It's always firm. So you can imagine as a man, you'd have to figure out a way to keep hiding it in between your legs or positioning it or concealing it so that you don't distract all the your female colleagues at the workplace kind of thing. But at the end of the day, whatever type of implant you get, that is a discussion that you must have with a licensed surgeon, medical practitioner who is an expert to show you the pros, show you the cons, and really decide, is this something that you need for you? Or are there other ways to tackle ED? And I would always say, please think first of the other easier ways, the medical management, mental health support, being able to control underlying diseases such as diabetes and hypertension, exercise, swim. A lot of that really is the way to go and would be my personal recommendation in terms of the implants. So thanks for that question. I think that is really cutting edge, which is really at the forefront of men's health right now.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for that very informative presentation and insights that you've shared with us today. And thank you. I can see we have somebody, Sir James, who is challenging us and asking us if we do have men at Minet. Thank you for that push. And perhaps I can invite one of my colleagues, a gentleman, Munene, who can maybe share some thoughts around this topic as we come to a close. Our host, kindly unmute Munene.
Thank you so much, Mary. I think this is our first time to use space, so you'll forgive me for technology challenges. But I think it's a very exciting space to be in. I want to thank the speaker for today, especially talking on such a major issue that affects us men. There are things that he has spoken about that I didn't quite know about. And I think that it has become quite an eye-opener. And I would really encourage for us to have more sessions like this, especially for us gentlemen, because we don't have many spaces where we can be spoken to, where we can, even share with each other as men about what we face in terms of our health. So I want to say thank you so much for the speaker and for Mary for hosting this event, and to encourage us to have, I think, regular sessions like this ones, where we can be able to learn. I've learned quite a lot today that I had not quite reflected, and I really want to appreciate the speaker. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who made time to join us in today's session, where we had the privilege to talk about the unique challenges faced by men. We were able to debunk some of the myths, discuss preventative and promotive care, and where we emphasized on the importance of healthy lifestyles and some of the strategies that we could use, like the swim, the sleep, the water, what we ingest, and the motion. And on the issue of exercise, where we talked about the frequency, the intensity, the time, the type, which Daktari labeled as fit. We were also able to have a look at the relationship between mental health and physical health, in the sense that, if you're stressed, your stress hormone go up, you are prone to getting bone disease, nerve damage, cardiovascular diseases like hypertension, endocrine diseases like diabetes. Even your sexual health is impacted if you're stressed, things to do with erectile dysfunction. We talked about prostate health, and we want to encourage all of you to go for that checkup and to regularly go for checkups. When it comes to mental health, we don't have to subscribe to the men don't cry, we have to be machoic. Let's look for healthy coping mechanism. Let's seek help where we need to. At Minet, we do have an employee assistance program. We have a telecounseling line. You can reach out to us, and we'll be able to support you where you're struggling. I hope that we have gained a lot from this session, and that we are inspired to continue supporting the men in our lives and the community, that we are ready to challenge the societal norms, break down barriers, and create an environment where men feel comfortable to discuss their concerns freely, and to seek help where it's needed. We encourage you to take the knowledge and insights that you gained from today's session and share them with your networks. Let's continue spreading awareness and dispelling the myths and supporting men's health initiatives in our daily lives. I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. for the valuable expertise and contribution, to all of you for your active participation by staying on throughout the session, and for providing us, giving us this opportunity to talk to you, your engagement, you participating. We are very, very grateful. Let us carry forward the momentum generated by today's session and continue to champion men's health, not just today, but every single day. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and contribute to a healthier and happier society for all. Thank you once again, and we look forward to connecting with you in future events and initiatives focused on men's health, as well as other health activities. I want to wish you all good health and
Mary,
well-being. Yes, and a good
sorry,
evening. Yes.
sorry, Mary, before you close, if I'm a man
Yes.
and I just want to get just a checkup, just a men's wellness checkup, what can I do? Does Minet have, providers or programs or packages for that?
Yes, we do. We do have a very broad panel, and we do have customized packages based on age for the gentleman. So the gentleman on the call can reach out to us through our email or even through our DM. Case management at minet.co.ke, requesting for a checkup, and we'll be able to organize one for you and coordinate the same.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so please feel free to reach out to us. You can DM us at Minet Kenya, or you can write directly to us. You can also get in touch with us at the wellness team, wellness@minet.co.ke. If you have any additional questions or support that you require, we'll be able to support you on that. But otherwise, I want to wish you all a good health and well-being. Let's spread this positive message and insights that we have received, and wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful evening and night, and all the best.